So if you're posting content and you're getting frustrated because you don't feel like YouTube's going to push you, I'm going to share with you 3 different things that you're going to be able to look at that will actually tell you if YouTube is about to push you. A lot of people give up way too early, and actually YouTube is about to give that channel a push. But they either change directions, start creating different content because they think something's trending and I'm going to go ahead and jump on the trend and I'm going to go viral, rather than looking at the data that YouTube is actually giving us. And we can actually see this underneath the hood of YouTube in the analytics. So I'm going to give you that right now. So here's what I want you to do. Now, this is going to take a little bit of work on your part. It's not that hard, but you're going to want to walk through this with me, okay? So the very first thing that I want you to do is I want you to go back through 5 of your last videos. 5 of your last videos. Now, one thing I do want to say, if you have not been posting consistently, this might not be as useful. I would recommend first posting 5 videos, at least 1 a week. That way there, you have some good data and it's fresh. All right, so let's just assume that you're doing that. The very first thing that we want to look at to see if we're on the radar of the algorithm is we want to look at impressions. Now, if you've been here on this channel for the last 2 months, you hear me talk a lot about analytics because, man, I am just obsessed with that because it tells us everything. If you're getting 2,000 impressions in the first 24 hours, there's a good sign that YouTube actually is seeing your channel and it's seeing your videos. And it's also seeing that your audience is recognizable of the content that you're publishing. So the very first thing is the impressions. Now, if you're not getting impressions yet, or you're not getting enough, I'll come back to that and I'll share with you how to get impressions if you're not right now, okay? The second thing that we want to look at is we want to look at the click-through rate. We all know that if we get a high click-through rate, well, YouTube is going to give us some love. Well, if we don't have impressions, then we can't get a click, right? So, but the click-through rate that I'm looking at with 2,000 impressions is above a 5%. Write that down. 2,000 impressions, 5% click-through rate within the first 24 hours. And the reason why I'm using 2,000 impressions because that's a good number of eyeballs that people have been scrolling and then your video popped up. All right, that's what we want. We want something that's consistent, and 2,000 impressions is a pretty good rule of thumb there. So now you got something to base this off of, right? So we have 2,000 impressions within 24 hours. Then we have a click-through rate of 5%. Now, we could go deeper on the click-through rate because if you look at the traffic sources, then you can also see, well, I'm getting a higher click-through rate in browse, or I'm getting a lower click-through rate in suggested. That is super important, but right now, 5% across the board, that means that you're getting above average on a click-through rate for most channels, and that's pretty good. But with that, there's also a third metric that YouTube is looking at that we can say, oh, how are we doing? Are we giving YouTube what it needs in order to want to push us? And that is average view duration. So the average view duration shows that people are clicking, but now they're sticking around. And what I generally look for here is a 40% average view duration. So if we're getting those 3 things, we're getting impressions, at least 2,000 within the first 24 hours. Second, we're getting a good click-through rate on those 2,000 impressions. We're getting above 5%. And then third, our average view duration is above 40%. That's typically what I am looking for. And if we get those things going, we're going to eventually get a push. All right, now that doesn't mean it's going to be a push on that particular video, but it means what you're doing is right. And YouTube is liking it because as they give you more impressions, we have to monitor the click-through rate to make sure that that stays above 5%. And then we have to keep an eye on our average view duration to keep that as high as possible. That's what YouTube wants. Now, if you're saying, well, Scott, I'm not getting 2,000 impressions. Okay, well, that's fine. So how do we fix that? Well, we need to find out what our audience is resonating with. not just searching for, what are they resonating with? And then we have to put that in our title. I've said this for a long time. The title signals the algorithm to push it out to the right audience. So if you're not getting those impressions, we got to work on that title. And I don't mean just any title. We have to have something that also grabs the attention of the audience once it does get displayed for them. And how do we do that? We create a title hook. And a lot of people struggle here. Tons of people struggle. I've struggled. But over the years, I've collected a lot of data and a lot of great title hooks. And actually, I put it into a swipe file. If you'd like a copy of that, just comment hooks down below and I'll send it to you. It's 10 of my top outlier titles that have performed very, very well. Some of them have gotten hundreds of thousands of views. And if you want to use those, you can just comment hooks down below and I'll send you a copy of that. Now, once you have a title that is getting at least 2,000 impressions for that first 24 hours, now we can say, okay, that's our benchmark. So now what we want to do is we want to have 5 more videos that go up and we want to say, okay, now let's look at each of those after those 24 hours and did the impressions go up or did the impressions go down? If the impressions went up, then we know we are on the path to getting pushed because that means that YouTube is seeing our content and it's saying it has an audience and it's slowly testing it to other audiences. And then as YouTube continues to give you more reach on those impressions, now we have to make sure that our click-through rate stays above a 5%, and sometimes it will fall. And then that's the next thing that we have to work on. But as we get these things in line, impressions, click-through rate, average view duration, then we know that YouTube is probably about to push us. So that would be my homework for you, is look at your last 5 videos, look at your impressions for the first 24 hours, and then from there, look at your click-through rate, and then from there, look at your average view duration. And now I did cover quite a bit with the analytics, and I know people struggle with the analytics because they can be overwhelming. Well, I shot a video that I dive into these analytics even deeper. And if YouTube's doing its job right now, you should see that pop up on your screen. And I would suggest watching that one next because you'll learn even more about understanding the data in your account so you can go ahead and get pushed by YouTube. Watch that video next, and I'll see you there.